Hey everybody! Since it's still the work week and I wanted to get some videos up, but I got work to do, you get good old pre-recorded content. So Reckoning is on PBE, pretty cool to see. Now we're finally going to get to play some normal games and see how we do. So I'm just going to walk through my thought process on this game, talk about how it went, and yeah, this will be a little different until I can stream on the weekend, so, should be some good videos here. Start off pretty simple here. Got the Aatrox with a sword. Was getting the sword because I've had an Abomination build I've been trying. Was trying to force that involves getting a sword for things like Infinity Edge, Bloodthirster, but don't really hit it. So you can even see here I'm trying to start building it. 2 Legionnaire, nice start. It's a nice 2-piece. Provides a little bit of healing to both Aatrox and Callista here. And we have enough gold to just buy out the shop. No big deal here. But yeah, so far Reckoning, still a lot of work to do on the balance. Still some bugs here and there. But overall, looking better than day 1 of Festival of Beast PBE. There's no Samira, So here we managed to hit a 2-star Vayne. Though, admittedly, I haven't been having much luck with Vayne. So I've been kind of biasing against her. So instead, we use the Gragas. Gragas is one of the better tanks on the front line, with his ability that makes him take less damage, and because he's Dawnbringer, he can get some healing as well. He's no Vladimir, but, was also trying not to play Renewer this game. Now here we hit an early Nidalee, and one of the things so far in Reckoning's meta is if you hit an early 3 cost, you should probably be playing around it. Now in this case, we also get a really nice shop here, and we get a Morgana and a Yasuo, so we could have gone a lot of different ways here. But I decided to go with the Dawnbringer. Honestly, could have gone either way, would have been okay here. Nidalee in particular, very powerful carry, so I decided to invest in Nidalee early. We hit that 3 Dawnbringer. Should be pretty strong at this point, simply because of how strong Nidalee is right now. We also don't necessarily slam items at 2-1, knowing that we're going to get to see our first shadow item and one other item possibility at 2-2. So definitely want to keep that in mind. And you can see here, Nidalee really good because she has backline access, allowing us to get past this Vladimir that's incredibly tanky this early. And you can see Vlad looking real strong with that Renewer. I think it's up for a nerf tomorrow, but we'll have to see. Thankfully, again, Nidalee strong enough there. Got some healing, some good stuff here. So win the round. And you know me, if I can start with a win streak early, I'm going to try. Now here we get the Sparring Gloves, and this is a big deal for Nidalee, and we luck into a Riven here, so this is big. 4 Dawnbringer this early is pretty tough. Nidalee's ability is once she turns into a Cougar, every time she crits, she gains dodge for a bit, and bonus damage. And so with Infinity Edge probably being her best item by a long shot here, you can see that, whenever she dodges or critically strikes, her next attack deals bonus damage. So, Infinity Edge is really good to guarantee that every auto attack gets that big bonus damage. And yeah, we hit 4 Dawnbringer here, really good start. Everyone's going to be able to heal up to 50% of their life back, basically giving them 50% more effective health. So this is looking like a really good start. Now, we do have to face A-Bomb, which is probably the either strongest or second strongest early game. That and Hellion are both very powerful right now. But you can see here, Nidalee doing a ton of damage. Getting those, big attacks with the bonus magic damage. Whew. Thankfully, again, with the Dawnbringer healing, we're actually able to beat the A-Bomb. So you can see 4 Dawnbringer, kind of reminiscent of old 4 Brawler. If you can get it this early, you're going to be sitting in a very nice spot. So, yeah, overall, a lot of options. Definitely a lot harder to spike in the early game without Chosen to necessarily spike you. You've definitely got to hit your 2 stars on your own here. Now here we get an interesting move. We get the Riven and the Skirmisher here, so we have a lot of choices here. And I could hold the Lee Sin and greed for this, but again, you know me pushing win streaks here. Decide to sell the Lee Sin and level up, putting in the second Riven, 2 1-star Rivens, both with 4 Dawnbringer. And the thing to note about Dawnbringer is they get bonus damage for each Dawnbringer that has procced their heal. So Dawnbringers like to work together. The more of them that proc their heal, the stronger they become. Unlike Nightbringer, which is more individually, as long as they proc their shield, they get the bonus damage. This is why the potential of Dawnbringer is actually higher than Nightbringer. So adding 1 more here is actually good, because that's 1 more proc of the heal, 1 more bonus damage for the entire team. And so you can see we're in a very strong spot now. Now, kind of a weird thing here is we could invest in Riven, especially if we were to like 2-star Riven early. Or we can stay with the Nidalee. Tough choice. But the thing is, we can't really sell either until we hit, you know, another Dawnbringer to keep that 4 Dawnbringer going. On the carousel here, a lot of options, but because we're investing in Nidalee, we're probably looking for Nidalee items. Nidalee items can include things like RFC, Last Whisper, Bloodthirster, Ginsu's. A lot of good choices here. QS. Because again, she hits really hard. So here, we end up getting a sword, which allows us to build a Bloodthirster. It's not the best item for a 1-star Nidalee, but it's also not bad with you getting those bonus crits. Now, if you end up going Skirmisher, where you get the bonus AD, then the Bloodthirster will become much more valuable. So, and this is a point where we're going to slam the item to make sure that we stay as strong as possible here. And the nice thing is, if we lose, we can sell the Callista, which we probably should anyway. Look at that. So, we also hit the Kha'Zix, which puts us at 5 Dawnbringer. Unfortunately, to hit 6, you need Karma. So it's going to be a little while before we can hit 6. So instead, we should probably be looking at other options. Since we're playing Nidalee carry, that likely means Skirmisher. So for now, we'll see how the battle goes. And again, Nidalee is so strong because of that backline access and that dodge. Getting right there, hitting the key target. You can see here, Poppy. A lot of super tanks in this set so far, where you get the Gargoyle Stoneplate on like your Vladimir, your Poppy, your Aatrox, along with like a Titan's Resolve, and you can do a lot of very powerful tanks here. But thankfully, we just use a generally strong comp here and manage to beat everybody. Hitting the 2-star Gragas is a nice upgrade. We do hit a Skirmisher as well, so that gives us where we could get at 2 Skirmisher. And this is where you have to make one of those tough decisions, right? If I win this fight, I could sell Pantheon and Kha'Zix to hit 20 gold. But at the same time, the sooner I can turn on 3 Skirmisher, the stronger we'll be, and getting that Skirmisher shield up early could be a nice boost. So it's one of those tough decisions, and we like it when the game has a lot of these kind of hard decisions. So we're up against a level 5 here. And unfortunately, they have a redemption on a Leona, which is going to make them pretty strong. And they've got Hellion, which is a lot of effective health here. Now, the nice thing is, the redemption is only good against AoE damage, which we don't have a ton of. We're mostly single target damage here, so should be okay here. But we'll see how it goes. And sure enough, we power through it. Looking good. And again, could have sold these 2 units here to hit 20 gold. But going into Krugs with a win streak here. And ooh, we hit the 2-star Riven. Big upgrade here. Riven 2, getting a 2-star 3 cost this early is always a nice boost. And Riven recently got buffed, so isn't bad here. We also hit the Lee Sin, which will give us our 3 Skirmisher. So again, now we're in an interesting position where it's like, do we go 6 Dawnbringer, or do we consider 6 Skirmisher? Now, Skirmisher in particular, Skirmisher 3, I don't actually think is that good. You only get 3 AD a second, and it has no cap, so you can get like 60 AD after a few seconds. But at 6 Skirmisher, you get 10 AD a second, which, you know, after 20 seconds, that's 200 AD. That is a lot of power if you think about a BF sword being 10 AD. So we get a spatula here, and that gives us some interesting options here. We're going to look at what they are. We also get our Ginsu's, which is great. Now, one of the cool things here is we're looking at this going, maybe we want a Skirmisher spatula or a Dawnbringer spatula, since that's kind of what we're in. We also push our level since we're win streaking to try to keep that win streak going. And again, knowing that we're getting an item at 3-2, we're not as pressured to slam right now. Next turn, we're going to get an item, which is great. So now that we have 3 Skirmisher, you'll notice Pantheon, Lee Sin, and Nidalee get a small shield. Now, unfortunately here, we're kind of poorly positioned, and you'll notice this Morgana with Morellos hits my entire team. Morgana has been a strong unit on PBE, and because of that big hit, getting the Morello, and unfortunately another big cast here wiping out the back half of my team, and then Vlad doing his thing, so bad positioning on my part gets us beaten by the Morgana, should have scouted, and unfortunately we lose our win streak, putting us kind of in a shitty econ situation. But again, that's kind of on me. I probably should have moved Nidalee away so she couldn't get hit by that. So that's on me. But again, Morgana, very powerful unit. I expect to see a lot of those until she possibly gets a nerf. Now here we get lucky, we get a belt. One of the 2 things we were looking for. And now we can use that to make a Dawnbringer spatula. So for now, we're going to put that on Pantheon, specifically because Pantheon is tanky. And that heal will give him more effective health than it would on any other character. So now we're at 5 Dawnbringer, and now we've got some options here. We see a Trundle in the shop as well. That Trundle gives us another Skirmisher, getting us closer to 6. So now, again, and this is one of the things about Reckoning that's probably the hardest to deal with, other than the items, is that there are a lot of flex decisions here. You know, do I go 4 Dawnbringer, 4 Skirmisher, 5 Dawnbringer, 3 Skirmisher? You know, which way do you go? It's a pretty challenging decision, and we're hoping that having all these different options is going to make the game really decision-rich and lead to there not necessarily being one answer to always solve everything. So you can see here Nidalee jumping in the back line, doing tons of damage, getting that shield, good to go. The shield coming from Bloodthirster here. We don't have the Shadow Bloodthirster, we have the normal one. And the normal one says when you're below 40% health, gain a shield. So it keeps that Nidalee alive just in case something targets her. So, and where I'd say we're at right now is a pretty typical spot. If you're at 3-2, 20 gold, and a decent comp, it's a good spot to be. If you're below 20 gold at this point, although I have noticed on PvE, there are a lot of people playing less aggressively, so you'll see a lot of 5s. You'll see a lot of people just now leveling to 6. So now here we're in the position where unfortunately we can only hit 5 Skirmisher. We actually need a new Deer. If we had new Deer, we could switch this to 6 Skirmisher right away and be very strong, because that much AD early is insanely strong. So unfortunately right now we're going to stick with the Dawnbringer. And again, here it's better to go 5 Dawnbringer than 4 Skirmisher, because Dawnbringers get more powerful the more of them have procced their heal. So, ooh, look at that Nidalee jump. Does get stunned by the LeBlanc, but it's okay. Whew. Such a fun champ jumping all around. Very powerful. And you can see the 2-star Riven also doing a large amount of damage here. Now, items-wise, we actually end up being pretty flexible here, but typically one of the drawbacks of Skirmishers is that other than Pantheon, none of them are very tanky. So you'll want things like Locket to try to keep you alive. Zeke's can be good to power up that Nidalee, because again, they have very high base AD. You can even go Cursed Locket if you're willing to give up some of the mana gain. Especially for someone like Nidalee who doesn't really need the mana gain, because once she casts once, it's all over. But we're also in first place, which means we get what we get. So let's see what we get. Looking at these options, there's tier, there's armor, but the bow being on a 3 cost and getting that 3 cost Skirmisher upgrade, probably a nice thing to do here. Lee Sin is a very powerful character just by himself without items, and bam, look at that, a lucky Lee Sin hit. And a Kennen hit. Whew, that's a good hit. Now this is a point where, even though I said it was better to do Dawnbringer, we make the tough decision to use our 2-star Kennen, because it is a 2-star, so that we can reach an economic breakpoint. We could sell the Soraka and the Kha'Zix here and hit 30, which is probably the right play. You can see me toying with the idea of leveling up, but leveling up isn't really going to get us anything here. So now here's some of these super tanks we're talking about. That Poppy with both Gargoyle Stone Plates. The Leona with Warmogs also being pretty tanky here. But again, thankfully Nidalee just jumps right back to the Soraka, takes her out, and eventually we're going to get to the point where the Skirmisher AD starts stacking and being a bit too much for even the tanky Poppy to handle. Although this image right here of 6 champions beating on Poppy and struggling with it, it's kind of been the experience of Reckoning so far. Very powerful tanks, but doesn't matter. They take the full damage. So yeah, sell the Soraka, hit that 30 gold breakpoint, hit the 2-star Trundle, that's a nice pickup. But again, now we're sitting at 5 Skirmisher. We still need that Udyr or Jax. So leveling up not really getting us a ton here. One of the nice things positioning-wise, by the way, is that Nidalee is ranged at first, so you don't have to put her in danger compared to other melee champions. So you end up with a positioning like this that isn't bad, and you're not that vulnerable to assassins. So, interestingly enough, we see here there is another Skirmisher player who has a very powerful Jax. Jax can be really scary, especially at 1-star, and this person has Ironclad. But again, that Nidalee gets going. The Lee Sin doing some AoE CC there, as well as the Kennen doing the stuns. And you can see there's just too much, because Skirmisher actually has a decent amount of utility built into it. So yeah, Skirmisher to me is one of those comps that's like, it's going to do very well. It probably won't be like the S tier comp, but if you get good items and you hit it, it's pretty easy to play. So now, the nice thing here is we did hit that Dawnbringer Spatula, but honestly, that's not making too big a difference right now. In fact, if anything, the big thing right now is that we haven't hit Nidalee 2. That is hurting us pretty badly here. Alright, Wolves. Time to see what we get. So items-wise, not a lot of great stuff here, unfortunately. And again, we don't really hit here either. Now's a good time to level up to 7. Now again, if you compare this, this is where oftentimes if you're struggling, you might have to roll down at 7. Thankfully, we have 94 health, so we can probably preserve a lot of health and just chill here. Items-wise, you know, we have that bow on Lee Sin. We could do a Hurricane. We could do a Gensu's. Neither of those are great on Lee Sin, except for the fact that, again, Skirmisher gets a ton of AD, which scales really well with Hurricane. So even someone like Lee Sin, shooting those Hurricane bolts can do a lot here. But again, we don't see the Morgana, and bam, that Morgana just wipes my comp out. Morgana really good into Skirmishers. It's going to get a second cast here. Nidalee trying her best, but oof, that Morgana damage. You see there, 9,000 damage from Morgana, so really just kind of messed us up there. So that's going to be something we're going to have to keep an eye out for. And with the Morellos, that's going to counter our healing from the Dawnbringer. So that Morgana is kind of our kryptonite right now, something to keep an eye out for. Item-wise, not a ton of great choices here, but as I mentioned earlier, we do want Locket. So we take the armor to start getting a Locket going, and this should help our positioning. Trundle is a really good user of AP. His ability can do things like destroy A-bombs, also does really well into super tanks. And so giving him the Locket so that ability hits even harder, it's a pretty good play here. The Hurricane, not ideal, but again, we're talking about, you know, keeping our strength up, trying to make sure we stay strong. And again, this is kind of a meta-dependent thing. On PvE right now, people are playing very greedy. They don't really know the set. So you can probably get away with not slamming items, not leveling up as much. But I'm trying to stay in the habit. And unfortunately, there is a second Morgana player here. This one with the Shadow Morello, which is a very slow but very powerful burn. And the Redemption. But again, thankfully we're not that much AoE damage. Now, Nidalee dodged the first hit, but unfortunately gets hit by the second one here. And this is going to hurt. Not quite as powerful as the one that had Death Cap. So Nidalee trying her best. And, oof, barely take that out. But again, you see that Morgana, 8,600 damage. These Morganas are going to be a force to be reckoned with. Also worth noting, one of the nice things about Skirmisher is you inherently get 2 Dragon Slayer because of Trundle and Pantheon, which means if you kill anything over 1,400 health, your team gets 20% ability power, which is nice. Now again, unfortunately here, we're still not really hitting the Nidalee, but if we can level up, that'll finally put us in a position where we can have 6 Skirmisher and 4 Dawnbringer. So hopefully we find a Jax or Udyr or even a Viego at this point. So and again, if you look at the scoreboard, we're in a good spot. So looking pretty good. I probably should have been scouting here, but knowing me, I was juggling work as well. So, all right, this person trying to play Assassins. Katarina lately hasn't been performing well, although Nocturne can do really well. But again, that Nidalee very strong here. Lee Sin also good with the 50% attack speed slow. Poor Nocturne chasing after the Nidalee. Woof. Nidalee is just too evasive. Nocturne tried his best, but it wasn't enough. Nocturne is a very good carry, though, so if you want to play the Nocturne comp, by all means. Alright, so again, our goal here is get to 8, try to find a Skirmisher, hit that 6 Skirmisher, which again is a very large power spike with how much AD that provides the comp, and see what we go from here. Now, Spatula plus tier is Renewer, so not really something we're interested in. Not that we'd get it in first place anyway. The tier here not really doing us a ton of favors. We could do something like a Frozen Heart, but other than Nidalee, we don't have anyone that's really jumping to the back line. Maybe Kennen. So instead, we could do... So I don't like this pickup here, the Shadow Redemption. Shadow Redemption right now has been kind of weak, and we don't really have a character that can kind of hide in the back with it, so not really a great pickup here. Okay, so opting to level up here. Again, it's all about preserving health and keeping the pace of the lobby. Hey, we finally hit another Nidalee. Really looking for that Skirmisher, though. Karma not bad. But again, really want that Skirmisher. Pantheon, not what we're looking for. And unfortunately, we don't hit it. We do hit the Garen here, though, which isn't bad. It's certainly better than a Gragas at this point. It'll give us God King. It'll give us that magic resist shred, so things like Kennen will do a little bit more damage. Nidalee doesn't really need it that much, although her bonus damage is magic, so it's a little bit of shred here. But unfortunately, Nidalee, again, we're starting to fall off here because it is Nidalee 1. We got hit by that Morello. It's going to be close. That Bloodthirster doing work. Ooh, barely take that off. Again, pretty desperate for a Skirmisher here. Get another Karma, although we really don't want to invest in Karma here. Swap out the Gragas. Now here we can at least run 6 Dawnbringer until we find that Skirmisher. So, and again, Gragas actually not that bad even this late because of the way he scales. So now 6 Dawnbringer heals a lot, but oh, we're up against that Morgana with the Shadow Morellos, so this thing is gonna hurt. We'll have to see if Nidalee can bounce away. Nidalee at least bounces away, but again, a lot of damage there. You can see my team kind of gets blown up. So these are going to be the things we're going to be scared of for the rest of the lobby. And ooh, that redemption heal. Keeping that Morgana alive. I don't think Nidalee can solo this, unfortunately. And nope. Goes pop. So that player looks to be playing Nightbringer. Kind of our rival, if you will. Dawnbringer versus Nightbringer. So now here I buy the Teemo thinking about possibly a 2 Invoker. But I can tell you, spoilers, that was the wrong call. I also sell the Pantheon here, even though I could have upgraded it, because knowing all the super tanks that are out there, I decide that getting it on Trundle is going to do me more favors here. A bit of a greedy move, But again, if we run into any sort of very difficult to deal with tank, we're going to need it. Now, here, unfortunately, we have a very difficult situation. Because right now, you should really be, without the Chosens, you should be leveling up to 9. But without Skirmisher, it's going to be tough for us to make it to 9. So I'm forced to roll down a bit, try to find that Skirmisher. And there we get the Udyr. Big pickup here. So now we can rotate out the Dawnbringers, get back in the Skirmishers. And there we go. So once I place the Dawnbringer spat, we'll be at 6-4, which is great. Oh, nope, opting to go with the Lee Sin instead. Now, I do like this play. Again, we talk about how Skirmishers need extra survivability. Playing the Redemption here allows that group to heal up and take 40% less damage from AoE. So very powerful item for anyone standing near Lee Sin. Nidalee takes out the Kale. And again, now we're getting tons of AD, so we are going to be very strong. And even 1-star Nidalee, because the AD is flat, 1-star Nidalee is still getting a ton of AD from that, so... Now here we get a big hit, which is the Viego. Oh, we passed the Viego like an idiot. I missed it, but never punished, although we could have had 2. Come on, Mort, don't be an idiot. Now, the nice thing about Viego is, right now he's kind of weak, has some pretty big flaws, and is definitely looking to get some buffs. But even in that state, Viego can win you fights. If he steals the right unit, he will single-handedly win you fights. So let's see how this goes. Speaking of which, we are on his double Redemption Soraka. And we start stealing his double Redemption Soraka. And we pull it off, so now his Soraka is ours. Now, granted, we were going to win that fight anyway. But we kept that Soraka from applying Morellos, kept it locked in place, and stole a powerful unit. So, it can be really good. Now, again, sadly, we're still on 1-star Nidalee. So I kind of feel like we have to keep rolling down here. And there we go. We finally hit it. So now we have a tough choice of, like, if we're going to get to 9, we got to stop rolling. We got to sell all this stuff off. Now, the other thing to note here is typically Jax is the best carrier of Skirmisher. But right now, Jax isn't going to be better than anything we have in the comp. Kennen is enough utility. Nidalee is our carry with the 4 Dawnbringer. We can't get rid of Riven because of Dawnbringer. Lee Sin is applying a big AoE CC. Trundle is taking care of our super tanks. So, like, really, we don't want to switch him out for anything. So there we steal his Vlad. Just a nice little extra body. And again, now that we have Nidalee 2 with 6 Skirmisher and 4 Dawnbringer, we are very strong. And now we're starting to have enough power to beat these Morgana comps. So it's looking pretty good for us with this Nidalee Skirmisher comp right now. Now, items-wise, a bunch of options here. We already talked about how Hurricane's good, Ionic Spark's okay, but let's be real, the pro move here is just take the Shroud. It's a bit of a try-hard grab, but it's a good pickup. Put some extra defenses on Trundle, slow down those Morgana casts. Shroud is never a bad option. So you can see me toying with the idea of putting in Jax here, but it really isn't the right call. So now here we see probably the scariest thing I've seen on PvE in a while. There have been a lot of scary things on PvE, but here we have a Morgana who has Death Cap and Morello and GA, powered up by 3 Shadow Chalices. So those Shadow Chalices, I believe, right now are an extra 130 spell power. So that Morgana, just watch my team here. There goes half their health, and there goes the other half. And I don't have a team anymore. Thankfully, Nidalee survives just a little bit. And again, with that Bloodthirster and those big crits, we still end up winning the fight despite a 11,000 damage Morgana. Woo! And that's one of the powerful things about Nidalee, is jumping out of the way, staying out of trouble. Now, unfortunately, we had to roll down so much that we are probably not going to be able to make it to 9. So, kind of an unfortunate circumstance here. But we'll have to see how long it takes. Hopefully with some PvE rounds we can get enough gold to level up. Again, you'll find yourself more often being able to go to 9 now that people aren't spiking quite as early and quite as hard. So, despite not changing these, we're seeing more people hit level 9 on PvE. Now again, that could change as the meta gets more aggressive. But oof, very powerful 2-star Jax here and a Kale. We're going to have to hope that the Nidalee goes back and takes the Kale out. Nope, instead goes towards the Trundle. So again, the big thing here is, like, can we kill it before it hits that ticking time bomb point? And I think it just about did, but thankfully, again, Nidalee looking real juicy here, and all the AD from the Skirmishers powering us up, put us in a great spot. Bloodthirster, kind of a weak pickup here. Lee Sin's already fully itemized. Could put this on Riven, but Riven doesn't have her Legionnaire going. So, kind of a weird spot. Could also put it on Pantheon, but Pantheon's also not dishing out a ton of damage. So, not the best pickup here. Whereas someone else got a Bramble, which kind of counters us, so we'll have to see how that goes. Hey, we stole the dragon. Always funny to watch. You gotta wait for it to tick down. Alright, again, our goal here is to level up. Decide to put it on the Pantheon. At least with the Pantheon, you'll get the shield that will heal it for, 40%. So, and Pantheon's spell does scale, possibly with, the Skirmisher AD can do some work here. So again, Nidalee's our carry, and Viego is kind of our ace in the hole if we can try to capture a key unit. Typically, if you want Viego to succeed, you're going to need like a QSS or a blue buff. But here we at least looks like we might get on the Karma, maybe the Ivern. It looks like we're going to get the Soraka. Ooh. Didn't quite get the Soraka, but we're on the Karma. Oh. There's a steal. Unfortunately, Viego does have a limited amount of power. Ooh, does get it off, and so we have their Karma. Still not enough, though. So, that Karma blew up our front line a little too hard. Too much damage there. So, that Karma being a very powerful carry. So, alright, we're still in a really good position. Decide not to greet it. Get in 2 Knight, just a nice little buffer. Tarek in particular is also a lot of healing. Could provide some healing to my Skirmishers to keep them alive. So, now here we look at this Kale and we think, hey, we can get Verdant in, that's nice. Kale's always good as a late game option. But we're not really a stall comp, so trying to get that Kale to be successful, probably not worth. So, okay, we're on the Aphelios, and we do steal the Aphelios. So that's a free Aphelios for our team. So, again, not quite enough, though. And so now we're starting to get a little worried at how much we're falling off. Another Tarek. So yeah, now we should start considering what options do we need to really power up. Is it something... Do we need that 2-star Viego? Is there something else we need to swap in? What are our options here? Because 2-star Nidalee, 3 costs starting to fall off here. We don't have the typical Skirmisher carry of Jax. We could consider swapping to Jax, but that means we're losing out on Dawnbringer, which is an extra bunch of damage and healing. So we'll have to see how it goes. Now here's that scary-ass Morgana again. Let's see how much damage it does this time. Finally casts, and ooh, god. Nidalee jumps out of range, though. A lot of damage. Thankfully, we kill the Kale. We're on the Morgana again here. Oh, not enough again. So yeah, we're starting to get really worried about our situation here. Morgana, 11,000 damage. Jeez. There are 3 players left. What can we do to power up? Now, the nice thing here is Morgana is a bunch of AoE damage, so if we can get that second redemption, that's a Tarek 2 and another redemption, and those redemptions do stack. So that'll provide even more AoE reduction for our team. So that is a really good pickup here that might be the deciding factor for us. So yeah, we're up against that Super Morgana, and we're up against the Karma. The Karma that's very scary. Let's see how we do. Try to position to at least shroud them. The Kale on the other side is really scary. Position to try to grab the Kale. And I think we get the worst matchup here. Yeah, we unfortunately get the other matchup. We do shroud his Taric and a lot of his front line. So there goes Nidalee in the back line. It's really going to come down to how much that Karma can do. And you can see that Karma spitting out a lot of damage. Now it's up to Nidalee to heal up. And Nidalee manages to do it. Whew! And barely taking it. It's a first. So there you go. Skirmisher Dawnbringer with a Nidalee carry. Turned out pretty good. So yeah, that's it for today. We'll see you guys tomorrow for the next video.